Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Critical Podcast. This is the fourth one. Believe it or not, I mislabeled the last one, but this is officially the fourth one, so if you watch the third one and you're like, I think that's the one said four, that's wrong. But anyway, my name is Jimmy Good, and like I said before, welcome back. And, as always, my co-host with me here, Mr. Joe Lever. How are you doing tonight, pal?
Good. Real good. Always excited to do these podcasts, Jimmy. I am amped, to say the least. Let's get after it.
Amped. I love it. All right, cool. Well, for anyone who might be new to the podcast, basically what we talk about on here is anything that really piques our interest as far as media goes. So video games, movies, TV shows, anything like that. So,
like we always say, the main priorities in everyone's lives.
Exactly. And if they aren't, they should be. You should probably reevaluate your life if these aren't the main things in your life. Forget family, forget career. This is the stuff. Anyway, if you don't know us, we're kidders. We joke a lot here. But today's topics for discussion, we're going to go over three different things. We're going to talk about the new Doctor Strange trailer. It's so strange I can't even say it. We're going to talk about the Jungle Book, which Joe saw, and he's going to give us a report on it. And then we're going to talk about the Overwatch beta, which I got to play this weekend, and I've been waiting to play it since they announced it like over a year ago. So anyway, let's get right into it. Doctor Strange, the trailer. Joe, what do you think? What are your thoughts?
Inception.
Oh, there you go. I get you.
Well,
so Inception.
I'm coming fresh off of viewing the trailer, and first off, I want to start by saying I don't know a lot about Doctor Strange.
Fair enough.
Kind of one of the characters I never got into, I guess. But the trailer was, it's one of those ones that gets your blood flowing. You start thinking about it like, ooh, it looks like it's going to be good. You know, the quality is top notch. I like the graphics in it. You know, when they're swirling around the worlds and like the dimensions are changing. It's pretty neat. Not familiar with all of his abilities and whatnot, but I know, Jimmy, you're kind of a fan. You could probably expand on it a little bit for my info and for anyone who doesn't know.
Oh my goodness. So I have to look it up again. But Doctor Strange is one of the most powerful heroes. I think he's one of the most powerful Avengers that they have. He's kind of on this different type of tier because of his magic, and he can do many, many things with that. And we don't really see that in this trailer, but they do a really good job of hinting at it. And one of my favorite shots is when he's washing his hands after surgery, or maybe before surgery, and you kind of see him kind of making these hand gestures that might, to most people look like he's like, oh, he's just washing his hands. But those are very reminiscent of the types of movements he'll end up doing when he's casting his spells later on. But he has got a lot of magical items. He can conjure a bunch of elements, and he can like teleport, and he can levitate things. He can do a ton of things. It's really crazy. So the fact that they're holding back on it is something that personally I kind of appreciate. I don't know, they're not showing too much yet, wouldn't you say?
I was going to mention that. I feel like they alluded to things, but not enough to give away any plots or etc. So he started out as a surgeon, good with his hands, that sort of thing, and now he gets these, I don't know, he learns how to use some abilities that he received via some sort of accident. Is that what I'm seeing?
So if I remember correctly, he does get in that accident, his hands are all messed up, like you were saying, and then he goes to this kind of Nanda Parbat / League of Assassins-y type of kind of a place, like a mystical place.
Looked like that, yeah.
Far east, if you will. But he gains magical powers through his time there, which allows him to use his hands again with magic. But instead of going back to be like a surgeon or whatever, he goes on to become a superhero.
Huh.
Yeah.
So it's magic. It's not like he's some sort of mutant or something.
Nope. That's why this will be probably the last really out there weird Marvel movie that we'll get, as opposed to like Guardians of the Galaxy, which kind of moved away from the MCU a little bit as being more of like a space opera, Star Wars kind of thing, and Thor a little bit where he's kind of like, oh, magic and science are one and the same. This is going to be like pure like magic, I'm pretty sure, where it's just like, yeah, we can do stuff that it's really hard to explain. Like, we can't really explain all of it to you.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm all about it.
Yeah, they're definitely getting a little bit more mystical, especially in the MCU and with, like, in this last season of Daredevil, we saw him trying to move towards that. Iron Fist will probably be a little bit more in that vein as well. But like you were saying, Joe, with this trailer, I think it's like a good like one part Batman Begins and one part Inception. Like the whole Batman Begins because of like, it's a very similar story with both of those characters where they kind of have traumatic things happen to them and they go like out east to get trained and then come back more powerful. And then the whole Inception stuff with like the guy walking down the highway or the hallway and it like turns into like a kaleidoscope or whatever. That's really cool to me. And that's like the moment in the trailer where I was like, whoa, this is going to be like, there's going to be some crazy stuff in there. And then like all the buildings and everything kind of taking like 90-degree turns and all that. And he's like falling through all of it. It's like, oh my goodness, this is going to be a movie where it's a feast for the eyes, as you like to say, Joe.
Haha, my favorite expression.
Mm-hmm.
A feast for the senses, a feast for the eyes. All of the above.
Exactly. Well, if they put in like smell-o-vision or something there, it'd be like, so this is what, this place smells like. Or like, this is what it tastes like. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm pretty excited about it. I thought they did a good job for really hyping up a character that could come off as a little kind of just really, really out there. And kind of, it's grounded a little bit right now, but I think that there will be a chance once we get into the film, he won't seem like super duper outlandish. Maybe by the end of the film, he'll be doing things where we're like, oh my gosh, like what, you can do whatever you want now. So
sure. Yeah, I'm interested to see how it grows throughout the film. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to see him obviously in his own film, but then, team up with the Avengers at some point because he is a mainstay Avenger after some time. So it'd be kind of cool to see Benedict Cumberbatch become, and he's such a good actor too. I'm really excited that they got him for this.
So let's think about this. The casting choices. Benedict. Dang on. I don't think they could pick a better actor to play that role. I can't think of one.
That's true. Well, for a while, Joaquin Phoenix, who you probably know, Joe. You know Joaquin, right?
Oh, I know the name. I'm trying to put a face to the name.
Did you see Gladiator?
Yeah,
He's
years ago.
He's the bad guy. He's the bad guy in Gladiator. That's all you need to know.
Okay.
He would have been good. The problem, I believe, was that he was afraid to sign on to the multi-movie contracts that Marvel makes everybody sign. Same thing happened to Chris Evans, kind of, where they, like, his family, Chris Evans' family, and some friends of his, like, kind of talked him down and said, like, this is a good idea. You should really do this. And I don't think that happened with Joaquin as much, where he was kind of like, I don't want to be tied into, like, 8 movies or whatever. Because Benedict Cumberbatch probably signed a multi-movie contract to at least appear in some, and at least star in probably 3 of his own. I wouldn't be surprised if we get another trilogy, because that's what kind of Marvel's been doing. And that makes sense.
And he's, well-known, very successful. Basically, with doing this Marvel stuff, I'm sure he's going to, not that it's going to hurt him at all, but, missing out on other things that are more diverse, I guess you would say. I mean, that's a big commitment to take on for a guy that's as diverse and successful as he is, I guess, in the acting community.
Yeah, well, at the same time, I think he'll still have the ability to do other projects, and he has shown, like, he can be seen as, like, an Academy Award type of guy, but at the same time, he's not afraid to be like, I'll be Smog, or Smaug or whatever, and he can, like, get on all fours, and they'll do all, like, that motion capture. He's not afraid to try stuff, and I really appreciate that about him, and I think he reminds me a little bit of Tom Hiddleston in that fact that not only does he have, like, a really cool accent, but that he's just kind of, like, jovial, like, he wants to be a part of these things. He wants to throw himself into it, and that's what they really need for a character like this, because you really can't go in and be hesitant to be Doctor Strange, because you really need to go all out to, make it believable, because he's so hard to believe in the first place.
Well, and that's what makes him a good choice for the role. I mean, based on things he's done in the past, he throws himself into his roles and does an amazing job at them. So you're going to expect a lot out of him for this movie for sure, and I don't think he'll disappoint.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And I'm really excited because the last movie I can think about that came out in November like that, I think was Thor 2, The Dark World, that came out like in that same kind of time for Marvel. Mm-hmm. And it would be nice to see a movie kind of going into the holiday season a little bit more that's like really good, and at a point where it's right before Star Wars comes out. They don't have to fight with that at all. And it'll just be like, here, we don't have to put Doctor Strange like in a May or June opening. Here's a
Hmm.
place he can sit and not have too many things to compete against, and he doesn't have to go all out. It'll just be like a really cool, great, hopefully standalone movie that will tie into the other stuff. So
Yeah, for sure. This one seems even a bit more top tier than things such as like
yeah.
Ant-Man or even some of the Captain America movies. I kind of look forward to this one a little bit more. I think it's going to be a little bit more. I don't know. I don't want to use the word gritty. I'm trying to think of a good description for it, but it just seems a little more high level than those. For some reason, that's the feeling I get from it. But
well, yeah, and it feels like we talked about Inception before. It feels like they have to have a really really big visual effects budget. They
yeah,
always do for these movies, but for this
yeah,
one especially, like they have to go insane. And we're already seeing that obviously like with the Inception type things here, but his magic, like there's like a still or screenshot image of him, like they just did like a shot of him doing a spell, and that
mhm.
looked even amazing. So I'm guessing that when we see him fight and do all this stuff, it's going to be like, wow, that was just gorgeous. So I'm really hoping that it lives up to my expectations. But I need to learn more about Doctor Strange because I don't know enough. I just know that he's very powerful.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, and I guess what I should have said was it seems like it's going to be more complex and you're going to have to think about it a little more. And
maybe,
movies
yeah.
like that give me a bit more satisfaction than others.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this one's a little bit more of testing like the beliefs and stuff of some of the characters in these types of films. And it'll be cool one day to see him interact with somebody like Captain America, who works with Thor and stuff, but he'll be like, I can do things that like it's hard to even fathom. And Captain America's kind of like an old school type of guy, so at first it might be like, I don't know what type of trickery you're using, but it's just gonna be cool to see him, integrate into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But right now he'll stand on his own, and I think Cumberbatch is the type of guy that doesn't really need an ensemble cast to flourish. I think it's good for him to finally get another thing like this where he's going to have his time to shine by himself, and a lot of the movie I think is just going to be obviously on him, and we won't have to worry about him splitting or sharing screen time with like another huge presence in there, which is a good thing because I think the more Benedict Cumberbatch, the better. So
Yeah, yeah. Well said. Yeah, I'm excited for it.
yeah,
Really
it'll be
am.
cool. And I think they did a really good job too at the very end. I thought they were going to show like a villain or something, and it's just him walking into, I think it's the Sanctum Sanctorum, like his little base of operations, and with his red cape and stuff. And they don't really show you him, which I kind of appreciate too. Where it's just like,
Yes.
here's a tease, it's going to be cool. We don't want to show you too much. So here's hoping that
Yeah.
the trailers going forward aren't they don't divulge too much, because there needs to be some really cool things that'd be like, you got to go see Doctor Strange in theaters because he does this one crazy thing and it's amazing.
Yeah, I like to be surprised when I go into the movie theater and see these movies. I hope they do the exact opposite of Jurassic World, because we all know that one showed way too much, and you went in feeling like you saw the movie. So
Every time we talk about that movie, for some odd reason now, I just like the trailers mostly, just like I get angry, and I just, shameless plug, but we did that. We talked about like why trailers are destroying movies. So if you hear this, go check out that video we made like last summer. But that was one on there that I kind of gave a really hard time for. But yeah, oh my gosh, Joe, it bothers me so
well,
much.
I feel like if you're gonna pick out movies where they showed too much in the trailers, that's at the top of the freaking list.
Yeah.
And we don't need to get into the tangent, but I love Jurassic Park, the first one mainly. The others were kind of subpar. Jurassic World, I'll admit, I enjoyed it, but it took me seeing it twice to really appreciate it. So,
Which, full
um,
disclosure, Joe and I did see it twice the same day, because we saw
yeah,
it in the morning and we were going around, we were hanging out, and Joe's like, I don't really think I got a good feeling for that movie. Should we go see it again? And it's weird because even though we saw it twice, I feel like I only saw it the one time because we saw it like that same day. So I was like, it
yeah.
felt like some sort of weird like deja vu type of thing. But then we
But
went and watched other Jurassic Park films later that night. So
yeah. Well, what kind of guy doesn't like dinosaurs? It takes you back to your childhood. Growing up, I was obsessed with dinosaurs. I felt like I knew every little thing about them. Hell, I freaking read encyclopedias. What kind of kid does that? A kid that loves dinosaurs, am I right?
that's totally true. I did the exact same thing, and every time we had like a book fair, I took every dinosaur book like that was the thing that got me to read stuff. It's like, I just want to learn everything possible about dinosaurs. Ugh. But we always tangent on Jurassic Park, I feel like, and Lord of the Rings are the two things Joe will always get back to.
Yeah,
so I'll pull us back.
Needless to say, sorry to interrupt you, but you also mentioned we were talking about Benedict. We talked about his role as Smaug.
Yeah.
Or Smaug.
Yeah, whatever. They say Smaug. I always wanted to call him Smog, but whatever.
Yeah, with a American pronunciation, whatever. Yeah, but either way, you brought that up, and I thought, oh yeah, we definitely one of these days need to do a discussion, basically just on Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. I think we need to get that one out of the way one of these days. God, we could go for hours on that one. So be prepared for that, people. But that I think we could also do some heavy discussion on Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. Yeah, those are two that we should bring out of the arsenal upcoming. So.
Oh, for sure. I feel like if we were going to plan that, we'll do it maybe when there's like a slow week, or we could just pick one week and just be like, no matter what comes out, we'll talk about it. Because there's always news, thankfully, now for us to talk about. But if we do that, I'm going to prepare like a bunch of notes. I'm just going to be like typing for like 2 hours. I'll be like, I'm going to be ready to talk about this. Because not that Joe and I are on opposing sides at all when it comes to this. But basically, when it comes to those specific franchises, there's so much to be said about both of them. And it's kind of a little bit like Star Wars now, where you could talk about the old versus the new and how they're comparing, nowadays. So something to talk about.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I feel like we've covered Doctor Strange. Is there anything else you want to talk about with the trailer? Anything else that you really liked, disliked, or anything else you were kind of confused about?
No, like it's a little vague. They don't reveal too much, so I don't really have any more things that I feel like I could talk about or ask. I'm sure I will get answers to some of my questions down the road. You gave me a good background on them, so I feel like I understand them a bit more moving forward, and that's important. So, more to come. We may speak about it again, especially with more marketing releases. So
yeah, for sure, and hopefully we'll get the chance to do a review on it too. But I think the trailer itself did a good job of explaining kind of like his backstory. The whole surgeon thing gets in an accident. I mean, it starts with his car overturned, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, like underwater, and it's kind of like, yeah, this is how this all started. This is the impetus for him to go to this place. So
yeah,
they did a good job about that.
So he goes to his temple, he learns all this magic, and then he comes back to work and he starts sewing things together with his magic. He's doing open heart surgery with like his eyes glowing, and
that'd be pretty great. They'd be like, he's the best surgeon. He did like 4 surgeries at the same time. He's just sitting there. He's like floating in between everybody with his like thumbs touching his index fingers, and he's just.
Did anyone notice how he was sitting on the ceiling with his eyes shut?
Yeah. Don't worry about it. That's just Steven. He's just going to work. Good on you, Steve. He's like, don't talk to me. But yeah, hopefully we'll get. I'm hoping we get a few lines in there that are slightly reminiscent of Smaug now, because every time I hear him, I want to hear like some sort of kind of like mean little quip or whatever, where I'm like, ooh, that's like a Smaug thing to say. I don't know. We'll see if that happens. But anyway, moving on from Doctor Strange, which we're both excited about. Jungle Book. I didn't see Jungle Book. I don't know if I'm going to see it, but Joe went and saw it this past weekend. And Joe, I'm just really curious to hear what you think about it. I don't know anything. I obviously know the story, like the background. And if anybody who doesn't, just it's the same story as the old cartoon, like Disney's The Jungle Book. Is that correct, Joe?
Yeah, it's pretty true to the original story. They did an amazing job with it. Let me tell you, when I went to see it, it was kind of on a whim. I didn't expect to see it. I didn't even know it was out this past weekend. But the girlfriend and I went and saw it, and I wanted to give it a shot because growing up, I loved animals, and of course, The Jungle Book was a big one for me. So I went in thinking it might be a bit childish, but holy crap! I mean, the things that they can do with computers now downright amaze me. Freaking amazing. I went and saw it in 3D. And I'm sitting in the theater and I'm watching these animals pop up left and right. And I'm trying to decipher whether they're fake or real animals. And of course you're going to do that. You know they're CGI, but you're trying to pick out whether it's evident or not. And I got to tell you, the average eye probably wouldn't notice too much. Granted, there are moments, like, I think if I was going to pick one out that looked kind of fake, sometimes I felt like the wolves looked a little fake. But at other times, they were just dead on, and I loved it. The tiger. And I'm already forgetting names.
Shere Khan.
Shere Khan. And played by... Oh, geez, I can't think of the name.
Idris Elba?
From Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
Holy man. Perfect choice.
Okay, yeah, I bet he would be a perfect, like, angry British tiger.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Oh, hit it home. And that tiger is ominous looking. Ominous.
Okay,
and,
cool.
So, a legitimate threat. Huge. Wreaks some havoc, and you wonder, okay, are they going to change the story up? Is Mowgli going to make it out of this one alive? Because I just don't see it.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I think in the cartoon, he somehow ties like a torch to Shere Khan's tail, and Shere Khan basically runs off into like a valley or whatever, and he's like, I'm on fire or whatever.
Yeah.
I think.
And that's the thing. I almost feel like I have to rewatch the original Disney animated movie because I forget how that all happens. But the ending is pretty badass, and the way he deals with Shere Khan.
Okay, cool.
Now, so CGI, amazing, home run. I don't think Disney can do any wrong when they do this stuff. They just hit the nail on the head, and they pounded it in with one hit. So
you were saying though about the wolves, were they kind of reminiscent slightly of the ones from like the Twilight series?
I was just thinking the same thing. Okay, so Twilight wolves, I think we can all get a good chuckle out of those.
Yeah, a little bit.
These wolves in the movie were scaled properly. They were the right size.
Okay, good.
They weren't necessarily the most realistic looking. I mean, if you've seen wolves in the zoo, etc., depending on the type of wolf you saw, there's bigger breeds and smaller breeds or subspecies, I guess you'd say.
I love it.
But these, first of all, are there wolves in India? I don't think so. Maybe? I don't think so.
You know, to be honest, I don't know. I think there are, but don't quote me on it.
And the bear, I don't think there are bears that resemble Baloo. I don't think there are any in Asia that get that large, etc. This is more like a big grizzly bear from Alaska or something as opposed to whatever Asia has. I think they have smaller species, but so now the casting choices for all the animals. Spot on. I loved them.
They were all good?
The only one that I kind of questioned was the snake, Ka. Scarlett Johansson. She did an amazing job. I think she even sang a song in there at one point. I think it was at the credit scenes, but
like Trust in Me?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I will tell you this right now, Joe. That's the one voice that I was like, really, they were kind of using way too much in the trailers. And I prefer that old kind of, I think it's the guy who did like Winnie the Pooh back in the cartoon one where he's just kind of like an old man, and you kind of like, oh, he's kind of like quirky, and then he kind of lures you in. Whereas with her, it sounded like from the trailers that she was just very like this kind of like, you know, I'm a big sexy snake. Like, what's going on? He's like, okay, like, I don't know if I buy this, but.
However, she did a good job, and I'll admit, this movie, I mean, it's real. It's realism, so it gave the snake a slightly more ominous feel, because I think if they would have gone with a similar voice to the cartoon, it would have seemed more lighthearted and, oh, he's not really in trouble, you know?
Okay, fair enough.
You know, it gets a little outlandish. Of course, the snake is trying to hypnotize him, and it does. It actually kind of almost gave me a Caesar, you know? I was drooling and foaming at the mouth, and
like picking you off the ground.
Crossed, and It's kind of cool. It's a little bit of a feast for the eyes there. Another one of my
There you go.
expressions.
I love it. Good stuff.
But realistic design. I mean, the snake looked amazing. It makes you wonder why the heck they couldn't do something like that in the Anaconda movies or something.
Oh, way back in the day, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe if they redid it today, it would be like really, really good. But
yeah, then I wouldn't mind seeing it because this snake looked awesome, just like
Yeah.
all the other animals. Yeah, so back to casting choices. Ben Kingsley is Bagheera. And
Excellent.
who doesn't like Bagheera? I mean, come on.
That's an excellent choice. Like I said, I haven't seen it, but like right there, I can already tell he's probably like just the perfect choice for that.
Yeah. And
I love Bagheera.
I'm actually, while I'm on the computer here, I'm gonna type in and look up the rest of the cast because I feel like
I can tell you who they are right now.
Could you?
Yeah. So you have Bill Murray as Baloo, I think.
Well, I knew that one.
Okay. So how about my question is Christopher Walken as King
Christopher
Louis.
who?
Christopher Walken. So what was that like? Because every time I saw the shots of him, I was like, this might be a weird casting call.
Come on, Jimmy. You doubt Disney?
Well, I only doubt the mouse just because I love Disney so much. So I just want to know, was it weird? Was he okay? Did he sing? You can tell me that. Spoilers, potentially. I don't know, whatever Joe will say.
He does sing.
Unedited. Okay.
He sings, and believe it or not, Christopher Walken can sing. That guy's
I believe that.
man of many talents, I suppose.
Oh, for sure.
Let's see. So, Christopher Walken did an amazing job as King Louis. And King Louis adds a little bit of comedy to the whole thing. He's like an old OG original gangsta.
Oh, there you go.
He's sitting in the dark in that temple, and he gives an ominous presence. I mean, he's kind of scary at first, and turns out to be even scarier. Kind of lulls you into a false sense of security to start with. But he's huge, like huge.
Okay.
Should I be giving away a bunch of spoilers?
Well, you can if you want to. From this point on, we're going to say if you want to see the movie, skip up to where I'm just like going on and on about Overwatch.
Yeah,
but if you
just
don't
come
really
back
care,
and check in later.
yeah, just jump forward a little bit. But that's what I was going to ask you is from the trailers, it looked like he was kind of big, and you said that most of the characters seemed to scale. So were some of them kind of larger than life?
Yeah, so this is one where that animal character wasn't quite the scale. Now, granted, this is a scientific fact that there are certain orangutans that their hormones make them change into like an alpha male. So there's always one that's like extremely large compared to the others, and he's got the big face with the rounded like facial flaps or skin, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
So he's an example of that. So that's why he's King Louis. Kind of sitting on his throne, all his little monkeys bring him food and stuff, and kind of do his bidding. It's funny, it adds a little bit of comedy when Bagheera shows up and Baloo's sitting in front of him, making a show to distract him and all his monkey disciples. Bagheera sneaks Mowgli out to the side. One of the monkeys spots him, and the three of them, Baloo, Bagheera, and Mowgli, make a break for it out to the cliff or out of the tunnel entrance. And so King Louie's like, enraged because he wants Mowgli to give him fire so he can be the top, king. Mm-hmm. So as they're making their way out, he gets real angry, lets out a roar and whatnot, and he goes to stand up and he leaves a patch of fur on the block that he was sitting on because he never moves. He just sits there and has his guys do his bidding, and he gets up like an old man. He's like, stretches it out and just makes a break for it. And at that point, he becomes scary because he's insanely strong, fast, just a destructive force. And Christopher Walken does an excellent job of really bringing that character to life. They hit it home.
Cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Quick distinction. Are there a bunch of other orangutans there, or are they all little monkeys or whatever, tails and stuff?
A lot of different species of monkey.
Okay, so there's monkeys.
He's only
Any other apes?
He's only orangutan.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, because that's kind of how I think that's how the movie was a little bit. But then at one point, Baloo also dresses up like a female orangutan, and they think that.
That didn't happen here. They take
good.
this movie to a more serious note. There's some comedy in there. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But this is a much more serious movie for sure.
Well, that seems to be their new thing is when they do these kind of darker reimaginings. It's kind of like with Maleficent, where they have like these kind of some lighthearted moments, but for the most part, the tone of the film is very much more somber or serious, which is not a bad thing.
Yep. So there's Aquila, who's the alpha. Is it alpha? Yeah, alpha leader of the wolf pack. Gets killed by Shere Khan, which is an awesome scene in the movie.
Oh, that's really sad.
It is a little sad.
I don't like when wolves die.
Shere Khan, of course, he confronts the wolf pack, when he finds out Mowgli's escaped and tried to leave the jungle. And Shere Khan, of course, wants him handed over so he can kill him. Well, he goes and he's having what seems like a civil discussion, kind of threatening and ominous, but talking to Aquila, and you think that Shere Khan's gonna walk away and do his thing. All of a sudden, he's looking at the rest of his pack, and he just turns around and grabs him in his jaws and flings him off of the top of the rock and like down a cliff in a ravine, dead. I mean, you knew he was dead. He tossed him like a rag doll. And
the Wolfpack didn't respond, huh?
No, they were like in utter shock, because then Shere Khan turns around and confronts them and says, who's next, sort of deal. And I mean, it's threatening for sure. None of them are going to stand up to him. Plus a tiger compared to a wolf. I mean, sorry.
But a pack of wolves, man, can bring down a moose.
That's the thing. I mean, in that aspect, it's not totally realistic.
Mob mentality. But it would be kind of stupid if, like, the main villain got killed off, like, right away. And they're like, yeah, there's not going to be a villain for this. And they just kill him. But
let me tell you, Shere Khan is a threatening presence. He's a straight-up killer.
Who's the voice of Aquila, the leader of the wolves?
Giancarlo Esposito.
I did look this up, by the way, and there are wolves in India called Indian wolves, so they technically could be there.
Okay.
So,
well, cool.
There you go. A little bit of knowledge for you. If you walk away from this podcast, you're like, I got some knowledge.
So keep in mind, these wolves aren't like insanely huge, or a little bigger than your large breed dogs in your home. So, the tiger is a big presence. I mean, he's big.
Yeah, tigers are just huge.
So in the movie, it's believable that the wolves wouldn't really risk being killed. After seeing the way he took out Aquila, it was like, oh snap.
He got him on the surprise, though. Maybe if Aquila would have been ready for it. But that's tigers, man. They're opportunistic.
Yeah. So basically, he camps out there and says, "Spread the word. If you don't bring Mowgli back, it's over for all of you," sort of deal.
Oh wow.
And it's all believable. It's not like, oh, well, they would just take him out, whatever. They play it right, and it flows well. I won't get into all the casting choices, but let's break it down to the bigs, shall we?
Fair enough.
Well, I don't need to end with Mowgli. The boy who plays Mowgli does an amazing job for a young actor. I don't know who he is, obviously somewhat of an unknown. Neil Sethi, I guess. Sethi, whatever you want to say. But did an amazing job for a boy. I mean, top notch. Yeah, it was amazing to watch him.
Cool.
So, now, your next step. Ben Kingsley is Bagheera. Who doesn't like Bagheera? I mean, come on.
I think that's the second time you've said that now. But Bagheera is pretty great. I always love him because they introduce him early on in like the other one, and you're like, oh, like big cats aren't a big deal. Like they're just kind of cool. This one's kind of like a companion. And then you see Shere Khan later on, and he's like wants to kill Mowgli, and you're like, well, why is Bagheera so cool? Like why is he like so chill?
Because he's smart, he's understanding, intellectual. Yeah. Then they all portray that throughout the movie. kind of cocky and, kind of nose in the air, obeys all the rules and laws of the jungle, and kind of the I don't know, the father figure, so to speak, for Mowgli, and kind of a respected person in the jungle amongst the animals. But let me tell you, the design of Bagheera, awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. So cool. I thought, let me tell you, a Black Panther, which after the movie I had to look it up. I'm like, what exactly is a Black Panther? I always thought about that. I was like, it's not its own species. A Black Panther is a general term for any black cat, any black big cat. So the only two species known to be black are the leopard in Africa or Asia, or the jaguar in South America or southern Mexico.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I learned about that a while ago, too. I remember thinking, like, wait a sec, they're not their own thing? It's like, nope, just a black version of it. And I'm like, sweet.
Yeah, so it's caused by, like, it's like a genetic defect. There you go.
There you go. That's okay. Joe's experiencing a genetic defunct as long as myself right there. But
yeah. I'm a scientist by day, not at night.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah, we don't do that stuff at night.
So, genetic defect in the hair follicle caused by overstimulation of some sort of cell, and so they grow a black or rusty / black coat as opposed to the tan and black spots that you see.
That's really cool.
And in certain light, you still see the black spots. They still have black spots. I thought that was interesting. We're breaking down to some science here, people, but I hope you learned something now.
Yeah. Did you see any black spots on Bagheera at any point in the movie?
Yeah, I think you do. And if you actually look at like the photos online of the Jungle Book cast, like I'm looking at one right now, and it's Ben Kingsley sitting next to his counterpart Bagheera. And the photos just really well done. It gives you a sense of how well done the CGI is. Here's the problem with it, is Bagheera is definitely not the scale. He's not as big as Shere Khan, obviously, but he's large. I mean, he's what you would expect for like a female lion, maybe a little bigger. And that's not really accurate. A jaguar is probably about the size of a female lion, 400 pounds, maybe a little more. Leopard is normally like 150 to 200 something. And this Bagheera would have been a leopard because they're known to be in Asia. So I had to look it up because I was curious. It sparked my interest. And I gotta admit, back to one of my original terms I use all the time, a feast for the eyes. What a freaking beautiful animal. Even CGI, they do such a great job. You watch him move and everything, and the way they actually make him move through CGI is sleek, beautiful, flowing, and just agile as all get out. I mean, it was awesome. Just awesome. So
cool. That's really cool.
And Ben Kingsley doing the voice, I don't think they could have chose a better actor for him. Really hit it home. So, overall...
Jarvis over here. Be cool, Jarvis.
Overall, I think he was my favorite character through the whole thing. And not just because I love the way the Black Panther looks and all that. It just perfect voice for the character.
Cool.
So yeah, next one to break it down to, I guess we covered Idris Elba.
Yep, there you go. There's a lot of weird names in this one.
Yeah, so weird. Whatever. Pardon my pronunciation, folks. But he was awesome as Shere Khan. They needed to pick somebody who could really portray that ominous, dark, angry character, and he did an excellent job. I really won't expand on it more. You need to see the movie because well done. All these actors did a great job with their characters. Next one, Bill Murray. I think he's the top of the pyramid as far as these characters go. Next to Ben Kingsley, my favorite, but Bill Murray, Chivon. Keep calling him Chivon. But him as Baloo was perfect. Man, I'm just praising this movie. I should, being that we're on a critical reviews podcast, I feel like I should dissect it a little bit more, but I really have no complaints about it. I understand it's a CGI movie, so it's not real animals, so I didn't have, my expectations weren't insanely high on that, but they exceeded my expectations. Baloo is not as goofy and funny as you would think he would be when you compare it to the cartoon.
Okay.
But that's understandable. They take more serious note with this movie. Different reincarnation of it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But, you know, he's got his little jokes throughout, and he's got his lighthearted act on, singing his little The Bare Necessities song and everything. And
excellent song. Excellent.
Yeah. Trying to get Mowgli to get the honey down off of the cliff. Turns out to be a great part, too. And Baloo's interactions with some of the smaller animals is always funny, or was always funny. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, and, you know, with the limited time frame they have for the film, they do a decent job of establishing the relationship between Baloo and Mowgli. You know, you can tell they become friends and everything. And even when Baloo meets Bagheera and they interact, obviously Bagheera is like, oh, you're just a jokester and irresponsible and a lazy oaf, you know, and that's kind of the attitude they have that he has towards them. But they eventually even become friends as well. And they both care about Mowgli a lot, and you see that, and they try tracking him down when the monkeys steal him and everything. But yeah, Baloo, Bill Murray, good job. Good choice. Perfect choice. Yeah, Baloo is huge, really big. Double the size of Bagheera, probably, almost.
Okay.
And a little bit bigger than Shere Khan. Is it Shere or Shere? Shere Khan.
I think it's Shere Khan, but I might be mispronouncing it.
Whatever. Pardon the mispronunciations and whatnot.
Yes.
This is on the fly here, people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so comparing them scale-wise, pretty accurate. And in the end, you know, there was some marketing, I think it was a trailer where you see Baloo and Shere Khan meet. And I kind of went into it thinking, man, maybe they're going to take a twist to this and Baloo's just going to wipe him out, you know, bear style.
Sweet.
I thought it would have been awesome. And I thought it was going to happen at the end, you know, the climax of the film. But it almost kind of did, but it didn't. Yeah, so him and Shere Khan, you know, they're in a confrontation. Mowgli's standing there with the fire, and Mowgli throws the fire away because Shere Khan kind of calls him out. I think the animals are afraid of something else now, and obviously it's the red flower, which is fire. And so they're all kind of standoffish towards him, like, get the man cub away from us, you know. But when he throws it away and he stands up to Shere Khan's just like, that was the stupidest thing you could have done, was throw away the red flower, you know. And, of course, Mowgli's adoptive mother, Raksha, the female wolf, kind of stands up and stands in front of Mowgli, sort of deal. Like, you got to come through me. And, you know, kind of corny and whatnot, but it was perfect for the movie. It's a situation they're in, and it made sense. So, and sure enough, Baloo and Bagheera stand up in front of him. And I'll be honest, I mean, it brought out the little kid in me a little bit, and you get a little bit of chills, and you're like, oh, this is awesome, you know? And, so they're standing in front of him, then a couple others stand up, and eventually the wolves just go after Shere Khan, and Shere Khan's, you know, swatting them left and right, and kind of making short work of them. And then, or it might have been Baloo, I don't know, I forget the order, but then Baloo goes after him and just starts ripping him up and down, throwing him around. They get into quite a big tussle. And Shere Khan comes out on top and kind of slams Baloo down and bites him in the neck real good. And you think he's dead at first, but he's not. He's just, you know, kind of badly hurt and beaten down. And so Shere Khan takes off after Mowgli, who ran into the forest, which is on fire because, of course, he dropped a bunch of sparks when he was running through with the torch. And Bagheera goes after Shere Khan and catches him and tackles him, and they get into a tussle. And at first I'm thinking, oh god, Bagheera can't. No, it's over. Oh god, they're gonna kill him.
That would be so sad.
And he knocks him down pretty good, and I think something happens, and Shere Khan runs off, and Bagheera's still alive. But so Shere Khan's running into the woods, into the fire, gets up to Mowgli, and Mowgli's in this. He makes a rope and a little swing or whatever, hangs it off a branch. Shere Khan eventually chases him up to the top of this real big tree that's kind of hollowed out, and they end up on top of this branch, and you can tell it's a dead tree. They kind of show that, and they're standing up on the branch, and you can tell as soon as Shere Khan gets on it, it's like ready to snap, and he realizes it, so he doesn't go out towards the end towards him. And Mowgli eventually baits him out there, and Shere Khan goes for him, and ends up falling to his death in a ball of flames. But that was probably the biggest spoiler review ever there, folks. So sorry about that.
I have a question. Would you have rather had it where Baloo kind of pins Shere Khan to the ground, and Shere Khan says, like, why do you do this? Why are you helping him? And, like, Baloo just, like, looks at him, looks up at Mowgli, looks down, and be like, I need the boy to get the honey, he says, for the bare necessities. And he just runs him through with his claws. You're like, oh my gosh, this is a Disney film, Maybe that's a deleted scene or something, or an alternate ending. But that sounds pretty intense. I was actually like really into that whole thing that you were telling me there, and I was like, oh cool.
Hey, so that was like a 20-minute run on that one. I love the movie. I give it like an 8.5 stars out of 10. That's how much I liked it. So
what could it be better about the film that doesn't, for you, it doesn't make it like as good as it could have been? Because we know all the things you loved about it. But is there anything there where you're like, I could have done without this, or they could have done this?
Well, it's a Disney film. Rating was PG-13, I think. Obviously, kids were able to go see this one and everything. And
well, not even kids. I mean, like, very young teenagers. So a lot of the people who probably saw The Jungle Book, and they probably did the same thing. It's like the same parents who brought the kids to Batman vs. Superman. They're like, it's like, it's for kids still. And it's like, these movies aren't necessarily for kids anymore.
Well, that's the thing. It's a Disney movie. The rating wasn't R or anything like that. So they did a good job of limiting the violence to a point where it wasn't always clear. Like, Shere Khan falling into the fire. They just kind of showed a ball of flames. And obviously he died, but they don't make it graphic in any way to like, oh god, he's dead, or look at all the blood,
Yeah, was that the same with Aquila? Did they show like his body, or did they just show him down into like a pit, and you're like, yeah, he's got to be dead?
No, they showed his body. They showed Shere Khan grabbing him and flinging him off the mountain. But it happened so lightning fast that it's not really, you're not picking out any detail. You just see him grab him by the neck and fling him.
Yeah.
So, but let me tell you, his body was pretty limp. He was dead.
Fair enough. Okay.
But what could they have done better? I'm never going to give any movie a top 10 or a perfect 10 rating because there's always room for improvement, but it's hard for me to really define it in this film. I'm an adult, so I would have preferred maybe a little more grittiness, but it's the Jungle Book. It was true to the story. They did a good job. And CGI-wise, maybe there could have been things that were a little better done, but that's not really for me to pick out. I don't know that I could have done it any better, really.
Fair enough. Well, here, I've got a question about some characters that you didn't mention.
Okay.
Were the elephants or the vultures in the film at all?
Oh! Haha! The elephants were a very, very cool part of the movie. When Bagheera is trying to take Mowgli back to the people, to the village, they're in the woods, and all of a sudden you hear some branches crunching and whatnot, and all of a sudden they run into a herd of elephants that are coming through the tree line, and he tells Mowgli that they're to be respected. They're the I guess you'd say keepers of the jungle, and so they bow their heads when they go by, and the elephants kind of notice that respect, and they kind of really focus in on the elephants, and they just keep walking. And Bagheera has like this saying about them that they're like, wherever their tusks broke the earth, furrows were made and rivers ran and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool. And cool. It comes back at the end of the movie, and they save the jungle from the forest fire that Mowgli started. They dam up the river at the waterfall at the top, and they dig in some trenches and whatnot, and the water flows and floods the jungle and puts the fire out. So it's kind of cool and a neat ending to the movie. So the elephants were well done and emphasized, and they were kind of, that godly presence, so to speak, which makes sense for the elephants. It was neat, very neat. And then the vultures. The vultures were in there. I'm trying to think. I don't remember it distinctly, but I think can't remember if Mowgli is running past them and one of them kind of jumps out at him. Ooh, yeah, I can't remember. I just remember that they were kind of nasty looking. And
okay, but they weren't like knockoffs of the Beatles, were they? Like in the old one, they're like a bunch of weird British mop-headed type. They're like, "Hello, man, like what's going on over there?" And you're like, "Oh God."
No, not at all. But now I remember that in the cartoon.
Yeah, for sure. They I think they pick on Shere Khan or somebody. They're like, "We can fly away," or we can. They're not like jerks, really, but at the same time, they're not really great characters.
They don't have anything like that, and they don't feature them throughout, like coming back as that annoying, pestering character or anything like that. But they are in there, and I think they're just kind of like a scary little feature at one point.
Cool.
So another thing I wanted to touch on that made the movie great and spoke to the actors and actresses playing the characters. And you mainly see this with Baloo and Christopher Walken. So, wow, that sounds stupid. Bill Murray and Christopher Walken. Bill is Baloo and Christopher Walken is King Louie. Mm-hmm. If you look at the CGI design of each animal, Baloo actually has facial features and expressions as well as the same eyes that Bill Murray has.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
Maybe it's somebody who pays attention to details. I'm that person, so I notice those things. And I pointed that out to my girlfriend after we left, and she was like, "You know what? You're kind of right." And because Baloo, you can tell in his eyes and the way his face is kind of shaped or moves, you kind of associate Bill Murray with it. Besides just his voice, Christopher Walken. I don't know, Jimmy. Do the impression.
Well, I don't know what you want me to say, but I just would probably say something like, "I'm King Louie." Like, it's like not that. It's a horrible impression. And
yeah,
I actually really work on it. But.
So first of all, King Louie has Christopher Walken's eyes.
Cool. And the
facial expressions are kind of spot on. I can see Christopher Walken in King Louie. Just dramatically. I mean, it's there. If you miss it, you don't have to be a detail-oriented person to see it. But I appreciated it, and I thought it was awesome. And some people pick on Christopher Walken's speech style and his mannerisms, but it worked perfectly for this role. And to be honest, I think any role he plays, it enhances those characters because it's interesting, it's different, and I think that's what makes him successful in the roles he plays. King Louie, he's talking to Mowgli, and he's like, "You get me that red flower," and I'm doing like a British accent.
Red flower.
Yeah. And then he says, "You gotta repeat after me, Jimmy." Then he says, "I'm gonna make it nice for you."
We're going to make it nice for you.
Protection, food, whatever you want.
Protection and food and whatever you want.
Exactly. And when he says, "I'm going to make it nice for you," the first thing I thought of was like an Italian mobster. That's all I could think about, because I'd make it nice for you.
If we use,
Anything
I'll
you
do
want.
this. That's pretty great.
Here's
I like
what
that.
we're gonna do. See, we're gonna do this. See, and
Cool.
yeah, I thought that was awesome, and I didn't really notice that in anybody else, because it's kind of hard with like the big cats and the wolves, but with the ape and the bear, they did a good job with that. I thought it was awesome, and needless to say, 8.5 stars. And if I wasn't critical of it, I'm sorry, I couldn't really pick out any flaws with the movie. 8.5, a strong 8.5. I loved it, and I encourage anybody who enjoyed it as a child, the cartoon from Disney, go see this one. As an adult, you won't regret it. It's enjoyable, and you'll love it. So,
Well, Joe, thank you for that really detailed retelling and kind of recanting or review, if you will. That it's really nice to hear that it did well, or that you do like it, because when I see these types of things, for me sometimes as a really big Disney fan, it's almost like, all right, we're just taking an old thing and just making it newer, and it'll be fine. But it sounds like there's a lot of love and time that went into this film, and it sounds
for
like it's
sure.
working, and it shows, because you're gushing about it, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I don't gush about many movies. In this one, I can do that and be confident in it. I loved it. I really did.
Well, we'll see where, in a couple of years, hopefully we'll still be doing this, but in a few years we do have Andy Serkis's, not Disney's The Jungle Book, but just The Jungle Book, because I believe it's in the public domain, Rudyard Kipling's book, and theirs is going to be all CGI. I don't know how Mowgli is going to work, but they're doing a ton of, it's all mocap and all that, so it's going to be actual actors, I think, as the animals, as if you put Bill Murray in the suit and made him do a bunch of bear stuff. Maybe they did it for this one. I don't know, but it sounds like for this next one, it's going to be all like that.
And who's doing this one, Jimmy?
I forget which company's doing. I don't know if it's Legendary or Universe. I don't remember. It's one of those other ones that's doing it. But one of the voices and one of the people that kind of ties into our first thing we're talking about here is that the guy playing Doctor Strange, Benedict Cumberbatch, who also did Smog, will be playing, you guessed it, Shere Khan. He'll be back.
That's a good choice too.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect. After Smog, that's like an audition tape for basically being in any CGI, like a bad guy, like a British bad guy. It's perfect. I'm like, he'll be perfect. He'll be perfect for that. But everybody else will see if they're as good as these other counterparts. I mean, Ben Kingsley, Bill Murray, and Christopher Walken. Not to mention, if you really like Scarlett Johansson and stuff like that, that's a hard cast to beat. That's a really strong cast.
Yeah. Scarlett Joe was probably the only one that I had questions on, and maybe they could have done better. But in the end, it worked, and I wasn't upset about it at all. But I don't think it was the strongest choice. But credit to her. I think she did a good job, and the Ka was done well. And looked cool.
Yeah, he from the trailers looks cool too. And just because I saw a picture of him earlier today, Willem Dafoe could have been a decent Ka. I'm just saying, he's going to be in Justice League. I don't know who he's going to play yet, but he could have been a cool voice for kind of an older, kind of angry, mean person, but he's kind of nice. I don't know. That would have been kind of cool to hear, but good for them. They probably also needed to kind of flesh it out, because there aren't really a lot of female characters in the Jungle Book to play off of. So,
and Jimmy, I have a couple other points to cover related to the Jungle Book. I almost forgot, and I think they're important.
Please do.
The film was true to the original Disney animated film, in that there were a couple iconic shots that I picked out blatantly in there, even though I barely remember the animated movie, but there's the shot where Mowgli and Bagheera are on their way to the village, but they're trekking through the jungle, and they're up on a tree, and they're crossing a river to a cliff edge, and they get up on that tree, and Mowgli kind of walks on it, and then he jumps up to a higher branch and does the hand over hand like a monkey bars.
Okay.
And then jumps over to the cliff, and Bagheera's behind him, and it's kind of silhouetted, or if that's even a word, it's like a silhouette of them against the sun in the background and everything, and kind of shadowy. And I thought it would. I was like, yep. Good
That's
job.
Cool.
Good job.
Good callbacks.
And they did another one too, I think, when they're sleeping in a tree, and Bagheera with his arm hanging down. Man. That is good. I should rewatch that movie. Funnily enough, there are some reused assets, I think, in Jungle Book from Robin Hood or vice versa, where
King Louis is dancing with Baloo, and there's another shot of Little John, who is the same voice of Baloo, dancing with the chicken in Robin Hood. So if you watch the dancing between those two shots, they're like the exact same animation. It just changed out like the characters in there.
Oh.
But that's pretty cool. Is there any other like little things like that you want to mention before we move on?
Yeah, well, the other thing I wanted to mention, and it's confusing for me because it's been so long and I haven't really thought about it since until I saw this movie. But I'm seeing an image on my computer screen of Bagheera and Mowgli in a field. Oh, great scene where they're trekking to the village and they're in this grassy African-looking field, and there's a bunch of buffalo around, and the grass is real tall, almost as tall as Mowgli, and Bagheera is slowing down, and Mowgli just keeps on talking, and Bagheera's like, quiet, run to the north, to the trees or whatever. And Mowgli's like, why? And being a little kid, and all of a sudden Shere Khan comes out of the grass and tackles Bagheera, and it almost looks like Bagheera's dead, dead to rights. But that was cool. That was a cool scene, probably one of my favorites, and scary. And I hope no one watched this and hasn't seen it, because that's a jumping scare moment right there. Oh.
Yeah, for sure. And I remember a similar scene. I don't know if it plays out exactly like that. It might, but where they do show Shere Khan, that kind of classic tiger, coming through the tall grass, like slowly and surely. Like, oh man,
it was awesome.
That's cool.
But yeah, that wasn't the point I wanted to cover. That was a little tangent.
All right, fair enough.
So there's been a few renditions of the Jungle Book that were real, right? I don't know if there was...
There's at least one live action one that I remember.
Yeah.
Mowgli's like an adult.
Yep. And there's real wolves, a real Black Panther, which is probably a black jaguar because of the size, because a leopard isn't big enough for what they go for. But they had a black bear in there. They had a real tiger. I'm not sure how they made that work. I'd have to go back and rewatch that, or at least YouTube it and look at the main clips. But I think there was that one where he's an adult, and then I don't know if it's a different one, but I think Disney did a real one where he's a boy, and it had real animals and everything. And maybe one of our viewers will look that up, but I think there are two real ones with real animals. Really? So I think I've seen them both. I just can't remember. I was so young. Yeah, but cutest animal in the movie? The baby wolf pup, Gray.
Oh yeah, baby wolf pups are adorable.
Yeah.
The cubs.
Good movie. I'm looking at all these images here to kind of jog my memory, and I just cannot get over that Black Panther. Most beautiful creature on earth, I can only imagine. I can't think of anything to top it. It's just amazing looking. I want one.
I do too. I don't really like cats, but big cats, that's where I'm like, yeah, sure, I'd take a big cat.
Hell, man, yeah. I'm allergic to cats, but I'm all about that Black Panther.
Well, you don't know you're allergic to those until right? You don't know. Like, I just got to test it out.
Like triple the pet dander.
Yeah. Well, is there other points you want to make about that before we move on?
I think I've exhausted the topic, but hey, everybody, go see it. You got to see it. It's worth it. Worth it.
That was amazing, Joe. That was like such an in-depth review and stuff. There's spoilers and everything. If for some odd reason you are jumping up now, and you've just got to this point specifically, we'll be moving on from Jungle Book, not talking about spoilers anymore. We'll be talking about the last thing on today's agenda, which is the Overwatch beta. They had a closed beta this weekend, again, their second one, that I got to partake in. And I gotta say, Joe, I've been waiting for this game, to touch this game, to play it since was it November 2014, I think is when they announced it, or something like that. Mm-hmm. I've been waiting a heck of a long time. I've been watching stuff. I've just been waiting. So I finally got in. And oh boy, is it good. I gotta say, I don't know how Blizzard does it. This is their first time making a first-person shooter. And not only is the game bursting with color and character, and it just makes you want to learn about every character, which they might change this when the full game launches, but right now it was kind of hard to, pick a character, and they didn't have like their story synopsis, which is really important for me because I really like that context. I like the backstory and say like, what's their motivation? Why are they doing this? But for anyone who doesn't know, Overwatch is this new first-person shooter kind of hero shooter hybrid where it's like you're class-based and you have different objectives. So in each game, and it's all PvP or player versus player. So they have two main types that I got to play. I think this is the only ones they have right now, but there's this escort, like a big, like, I don't even know, like a freight or like a truck or something, and you have to get your heroes close to this truck to move it along this line. And there are different checkpoints that you can get to like increase the time you get to that final checkpoint. So you're either on attack, which is those guys, or you're on defense, which means that you're trying to stop those people, kill them, and then like get near to this thing they're moving, this escorted vehicle, and push it back down the line. That one's cool. Some people really don't like the escorting thing, and I get that. And there are some heroes that are just, it's really cool to say like, all right, like there are some characters that are way better at defense. Like they're really good at setting a position and just like holding people back. And there are other people who are just so good at like flying through the front line. And so it's interesting. You can really see the dynamics with that one. And the other one that they have is like this straight up like kind of capture a control point type of thing. Much more kind of just like a little more of a standard type of first person shooter thing. They don't have any team deathmatch, which I kind of like because obviously there are certain characters that are like excel at killing. Like that's all they do is kill. But there are other characters in this game that, there's healers, there's, more support type characters that are just as much fun and rewarding, if not more so than some of the damage dealers. But I just really loved the dynamics in this game. There's so many things, there's so many cool, interesting moments that you can play off of other characters. And it was kind of hard because everyone's kind of all for themselves. So there wasn't a ton of moments where like I did something and someone else did something at the same time in tandem that just was like this beautiful like destruction that I wanted. I think we'll get there, especially if I'm playing with like Joe and stuff. I'm like, Joe, do this, and I'll do this, and it'll be great. But the game has just got so many cool things going for it. I think they got like 21 heroes right now. I played on a few maps, and the cool thing going forward too is that, buying into this, it's not free to play. It'll be on PC, PS4, and Xbox One, is that all maps and heroes coming down the line will be free. So that's just a really interesting thing, and I like that a lot. They're going to make their money from obviously the initial like sales and purchases of the game, and then skins and cosmetic items, which you can either, I believe, buy with real world money after a certain point, or you like earn in-game currency, and you can use that towards the skins. And every time you level up, at least in this beta, you would get a loot box, and you just get a bunch of random stuff. So you get like different skins, different poses for your characters, different voiceover lines that they get to say. So you can have like, be like, oh yeah, like, I got this one for Junkrat that he wouldn't normally say, and then I equip it. So every time if I want him to say something, he'll say that instead.
Is it rated R? Do they swear?
Oh, tons of swearing. No, I don't know if there's any swearing. There might be a little bit here and there, but not that I heard of. And then there's also like little different sprays or paint things that you can do just to kind of like leave your little mark on the map, which is pretty interesting. But Joe, I just kind of wanted to, before I get into a little more specific with the heroes, are any questions that you have about the game? Because we talked about it a little bit, but you might not know obviously as much as I do, just because I've been like researching it like crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm excited for it. First off, I after watching gameplay and all that and researching the characters lightly, I've looked into them a little bit on the main website. I'm excited. It's diverse. I like that they have a lot of options for character choices. I like how they play different roles, offense, tank, and defense, and support. For some reason, right away, I think of Evolve and the different roles that you get to choose, and the way that they support each other and how you kind of rely on that. I like that, and I think it brings a new aspect of gameplay to this game as opposed to other first-person shooters that I think I'll enjoy. It's not all about the kill. It's very team-oriented, so great game to play with some buddies or friends, and I think we'll have some fun.
Yeah, for sure.
So down the characters, Jimmy, in this game you were playing the PC version. You were limited on your character choices.
I was not limited in any way from the get go, and from any time if you buy the game, you'll get all of them unlocked immediately. So I tried, I think, everybody.
Oh,
A little
awesome,
bit.
awesome. So, what role did you prefer?
So
Would
it
you
really
have the
depended.
most fun with?
Oh, that's a good question. I did like the defense role a little bit because that's where it was cool, because if it was like, oh, you're on defense, your team would be, people would be picking and be like, you don't have enough, like, you don't have a turret on your team, or you don't have like a builder, or you don't have like enough, like a tank hero, and the same for attack. So I enjoyed, like, on the defense side, I really liked Torbjorn, who is this little dwarf guy who gets to make a turret, and basically your main goal is not necessarily to kill people yourself, but to like keep your turret alive and like try to just distract and potentially kill other people. You can do some pretty good damage. You have like a cool little gun that's got like a regular just like fire, and then it also has like a shotgun blast. So if people get close to you, I did kill a few people just by, shooting them in the face.
Cool.
But I really did like they are grouped into different categories where you have like attack, tank, support, and defense. And I think the attack tree was probably where I spent most of my time. I think a lot of people did, but because not a lot of people wanted to necessarily be tanks or healers or anything like that. But I did like the attack tree a bit. There was like 3 people in particular that I really, really liked.
So
Soldier
offense,
76
huh?
for offense. Yes,
Yep.
that's the better way to put it, yeah. Soldier 76, he's the one you do in the tutorial, and he is the one who is basically like your regular old kind of like Call of Duty first-person shooter type of guy. But I love his backstory, and like if I was in the Overwatch world, that's who I'd want to be. Like his story before he becomes this guy is really cool to me. And he's kind of like a Captain America, where he's just like enhanced, physical attributes. He's not like, they say he's stronger, but he doesn't like jump any higher or anything. But he does have a sprint, which no one else really has. But he's got like an assault rifle that comes with some rockets, and he has like a little healing field. So as opposed to like healing yourself like in Call of Duty, you just do automatically. It's nice to kind of support other people who are like entrenched with you, because he's like a guy who's on the front lines. Like I'd love to move up on an objective point and like kind of hit around a corner or hide there and be like, all right, here's like, get down on this field, everybody with me, and we'll heal up and we'll charge in together. And his ultimate ability, which is just like an aim assist, which doesn't sound that cool, but you plop it on, and then anybody you see, you just hold the trigger down and he will shoot at them without you having to aim at them. And there was, I think I used it like 2 or 3 good times.
Like an automatic kill, or
No, it basically just
hits them?
sights in on them, and then you just hold down the trigger. And I don't think you don't have to worry about ammo. I think you can just hold it down for that entire period of time, and it just auto aims at, like, kills one person, then goes to the next person, and just kind of goes all the way around. And it just makes you feel really cool. And that's one thing I'll say about this game. No matter who you play, you will have moments where you're like, man, that was sweet.
I'm
like,
a badass.
Exactly. Even as a healer or a support, like, I'll jump to this quick, but Symmetra is the support character that her ultimate ability is to make a portal, which I screwed up the first time, but basically what it does is you can put a portal down anywhere on the map, and they make a portal back at your base, which is really crucial for like an objective one, because instead of having your teammate die and then have to run all the way back to the objective, it's like, bam, they're right there. And so what I did is I made a portal nearby this one objective point. I went inside, and she can make these turrets, and I put all these turrets up on the ceiling, and she has this little like charge gun. You can either like charge out like a super lightning ball, or that they have to be in range, like a very short range, and do like a kind of a beam that locks to them. But I had these like damage dealers who would run in from the enemy team, and they come try to kill me. My little lasers would start hitting them and slowing them down and killing them. And I was sitting in there with I think like a Lucio, and he was just healing everybody the whole time, and we just sat in there and took it like really quickly. Like we just ended the match like right away, and I was like, yep, that's pretty cool.
So
yeah, please ask me a question.
So the portal, can you shoot grenades and stuff through it? So if you set that up near the enemy encampment and throw grenades in there,
Joe, that's an excellent question. I have no idea. Basically what's happening is like you just walk towards it and you just go through it. Like you don't get to really choose, like it's so close when you spawn. So that's a good question. I'll try that out. We should figure that out.
Hey,
that
future strategy, baby. Throwing
future
bombs
strats,
through
baby.
the portal.
Yeah, for sure. The other 2 people I'll go into a little bit here for offense were McCree, the gunslinger, and Genji, this kind of cyber ninja. McCree is just this cool, like, he's an old revolver, 6-wheeled shooter kind of guy. He's
Reminds me
the
of
cool
Wolverine from X-Men for some reason.
Oh yeah, he does kind of have that. He does have like the scruffiness, and he's got a cigar, so it does kind of. I get that. The cool thing I love about his gun is that you can kind of take your time and do just like one shot, and kind of hit at a distance if you want to. Or you can kind of do that quick draw, like you shoot, you unload your entire clip or what's left of it. And I love that because it reminds me a little bit of obviously old Westerns, but then in like the newer expendable films, like that's one thing that you see Sylvester Stallone do a lot. He takes out a pistol and just holds down the trigger and then just like, hammers back or whatever a bunch of times. And you can really go through people pretty quickly that way. And one thing I was still learning about him is he has 2 other abilities. He's got like his a stun grenade, and he also has a dodge roll. Stun grenade's great, obviously, to like make somebody not move. But the dodge roll, what you can do is do that kind of unload clip like I was talking about. You roll forward or roll whatever direction, and it's already reloaded. Like your guy reloaded it while he did it. So you can be like do roll do like like or whatever. Like
I like
6 of
that,
those.
yeah, because I would figure with like a revolver like that. I mean, I would hope it'd be like a 2-shot kill or something, and because otherwise I feel like you'd be very prone to being shot by people around you, not necessarily the person you're shooting at, etc.
Yeah, it's true. You really have to. He won't always kill everybody with 2 shots, obviously, but he's pretty deadly if used correctly. And his ultimate ability, this Deadeye thing, where basically kind of like Soldier 76 is where like you sight up, but you sight up, over like 2 seconds or whatever. Actually, it's like 4 seconds, and it takes like 2 seconds to sight up on a person. Like you see like this little reticle go around whoever you can see as far as an enemy goes. Mm-hmm. If they go behind cover or something, it goes off. But once those lock in, you can get up to, I think you could technically get up to 6. I don't remember how many people are on a team. I think it was like 5. But if you do that and you pull the trigger, whoever's sighted up in that time will automatically die. Like it'll just be headshots. Like it'll just like do. And so the trick with that is to kind of proc it like when you're in cover and kind of step out, because you move really slow and you can't really do anything else, and just sight up as many as you can and then just put them down. So cool. I found myself using that on like Bastion, who's this turret guy. I would just sometimes use it just to kill him because he was so good. Like he'd see me and I'd just be dead. So I would just like find him and be like, boom. And then Genji was the other one. He is definitely the highest skill level character I played in the entire game. He does not have a high health pool at all, but he basically has the shuriken he can throw. He can either throw them 3 of them in a straight line kind of thing, or he can kind of fan them out. They're not like really crazy high damage, but they're all right. He has this kind of dash through move, which is good for mobility, but also if you dash through someone, it does a bunch of it does some damage over time to them, as if you kind of ran through them and cut them up like 4 or 5 times. And then his other one is that he can deflect. He pulls out his little Shoto again, and he kind of deflects any incoming fire, which I had a Genji do it to me as Bastion, the turret guy. I was shooting at him, and he deflected, and all my bullets came right back at me and killed me.
Wow,
because he can do that, and it's really nice. And then his ultimate ability is he pulls out the katana on his back, and basically he can kind of like 2-shot anybody. So he takes like wide swings and stuff like that. And it can be very good. It just, you have to really, if you can get behind enemy lines and kind of sneak up around and just kind of cut everybody down, that's kind of the best way to do it. But I was having a hard time. I think maybe on controller I'll be better with them, because right now I was like, oh my gosh, it's so hard to do all these things.
I've never played many games on PC, or on a computer in general, so I feel like it'd be more technical or difficult. I know aiming with the mouse and stuff is a little easier for people, which I can understand that. But yeah, as far as like walking and stuff instead of using like arrow keys, I feel like a controller is just, I don't know if you can beat that. I know a lot of people probably differ that when it comes to that, but I don't know. I like the feeling of a controller and everything, so.
Yeah, and I think for those types of characters, for me, like Genji will probably be simpler on the controller.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some characters that don't require as much, like Soldier 76, where it doesn't really matter where you play him. And the last character I want to talk about, she was pretty easy to play with too, but she's on, I think, technically the defense team, but Mei, she's kind of like Mr. Freeze or Captain Cold, where she has like an ice gun, and it has 2 like fires, 2 mechanisms or whatnot to hurt people, if you will. It's got like this kind of like slowing beam that eventually will freeze someone in place if you're close enough. And then the alternate fire is like it turns into an icicle shard, and it does like a lot of damage for like headshots and stuff. So basically you kind of slow somebody down and then headshot them point blank while they're looking at you, or you can kind of melee them. And she's got some other cool abilities, like the ability to encase herself in ice, which makes her completely invulnerable and heals her up over like 3 or 4 seconds. And then she has this ice wall, which is one of the most interesting moves, where you can use it kind of on yourself to like boost yourself up to a higher spot, or turrets, which I didn't realize this, but one of the games we were playing, as defense for this, this objective train or truck that was moving. I kept boosting up our bastion on turret, and in the beginning I flew him up in the air or whatever, and he was up on this thing, and he got like 3 or 4 kills like right in the beginning of the game because he was like at this higher vantage point, which was really cool and rewarding. But I also used it at some times when we were trying to get closer to an objective on attack to kind of block off the main hallways that people were firing down. So like, because there was like sometimes they'd force you into one hallway to like come into, so I'd put that up, and then the whole team would move together through a spot, and I was like, sweet, I did like a lot of good blocking, and the game will tell you too. It'll be like, oh yeah, you blocked this much damage with your ice wall.
That's cool.
So it's really cool, especially for people
sorry to say, I don't see myself picking her often because
that's fine.
She's not very aesthetically pleasing. Is that shallow of me?
That's okay. Well, you would only see like her hands and stuff.
True. Okay, true.
And the other cool, haha, pun thing. But her ultimate ability is a blizzard. She uses this cute little droid thing that she has following around, and she throws it out, and like it does this big AOE, like slows everybody and freezes them, which really opens them up for something like a Deadeye, or from like McCree, or like Soldier 76's like his like scanning. He just shooting everybody. It's pretty cool if she works in tandem with some people, because you can really wreck a room just really easily with her.
Cool.
She's a lot of fun. And every one of the characters. I mean, like I said, I tried all of them, and there wasn't one. There are some that I wasn't like, oh man, this isn't really my playstyle, but that doesn't mean they're bad. Like they all have a lot of nuances, and it's one of those games where I knew it's just like any Blizzard game. You can get into it really easily, and you're like, this is like, yeah, I get this. This is fun, but it will take a long time to master. And the more I play it, the more I start to see things where I'm like, oh, I could have done this, or I can try to do this, and trying to use the momentum or the mobility of certain characters. Like Genji and Hanzo can climb walls. Not every character can do that. Like, there's certain characters where like, can I get up on that roof? And then you like get up on that roof and you're like, this is pretty sweet. Like I'm kind of exposed, but like if no one sees me for a while, I'm gonna freaking mess somebody up. So that's something I really enjoyed too. I liked Widowmaker. I love getting headshots with her.
Jimmy, now here we're getting into something I wanted to talk about.
Oh,
I've got 3 points I want to talk to you about and get your feedback on. Mainly because they're a couple of my interests, and then the other one is kind of a overall take on it. First off, Widowmaker, I wanted you to get into the details on her a little bit. She kind of perked my interest as far as character choice. What's she about? What are her abilities, and how'd you like her?
She's really cool. She has a tragic backstory I won't necessarily get into here, and they do explain why she's like blue or purple, which I kind of wondered about when I looked at her. But
fell into a vat of food dye, right?
Fell into a vat of, yeah, exactly. Now I just want to tell you the whole story. But anyway, it's tragic.
Rolled around in some grapes. She was making wine.
She got abducted and was trained as a sleeper agent to kill her husband, who was like some sort of, I forget if he was a good guy for something, and they basically they awoke her to kill him in his sleep because they couldn't kill this guy. And then they did some augmentation on her, slowed her heartbeat down way to just like almost stopping point. And that's why her skin looks blue, it's because she's very cold. Anyway, Widowmaker, she's really cool because not only is she like just a sniper when you look at her, like, oh, she's just a sniper. No. She also, that gun turns into an assault rifle, so if somebody gets up and close and personal, which has always been a problem for me with snipers in games where I'm like, crap, somebody's here, and like you're in Call of Duty Black Ops, like, I've got my magnums or whatever, or my pythons, and like you just try to blast them away.
Yeah.
She can actually do pretty good damage with that thing.
Okay.
She also has I think they're called like poison mines or something, but basically she can plant that anywhere, and it just like explodes and does damage over time and stuff like that. So that's another type of thing, and it'll say triggered. Like if you have any traps with any characters, it'll tell you when they trigger. So if you're like sighting up and you're like, oh wait, like oh no, I think someone's nearby. So you can do that. And then one of her coolest things that's really, really sweet is her traversal is this grapple hook. So if you have to kind of feel for the range, but you can like pick any ledge that you see just about and just zip up to it. And you're just like, whoop, I'm up there. And you can get out of situations with it really easily. It's just like a sweet grapple hook for like Just Cause 3 style. She's really good.
Right on. Well, so...
Oh, and don't forget her ultimate ability. It's a cool support one where she shows off. She can, like, gives the vision to every player on her team where everyone else is on their team. Like, through walls and stuff. It's like red outlines of them and stuff, or highlighted versions of them. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so... Just doing my light research on the characters and who I feel like I want to go with. I liked her a lot, and now that you go over her abilities more in depth, I like the sound of her as a choice for a character to play as. But the look of her, God, a little risque.
She's a little risque, yeah. And there's I think a special, because I pre-ordered it. There's like another skin you get with her, but she has some other kind of risque skins. But if you want to see her in action, I think I said this to you too, Joe. There's like a 6-minute short that they did for her called Alive, where she goes to assassinate this kind of robot guy, and it's like really well done, and
Wow,
it like
nice.
makes her look like the cool, like you just want to play as Widowmaker always. You're like, I will play as Widowmaker, thank you. Like,
Hey, that's cool that they do other things for this game as far as their marketing and amping up the game, with these shorts and whatnot, and all the in-depth background stories you get to each character. I think that really enhances your outlook on the game and getting into it. So that's cool, and I can see why you're amped up for this one, man. I got to get into it a bit more myself even before the beta here, because my interest is piqued. I say it all the time on a lot of things, but interest is piqued.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's dressed pretty risque, and good for her. Shows she's confident. She likes herself. Anyway, good self-esteem. Her mask thing, her little headset there, so that's cool. Like, she's a sniper, so like that drops down and she's got like this enhanced vision. I'm just imagining something. Maybe they show it more in her short and her description, but kind of neat. Very appealing. I like her as a character, and maybe my opinions will change once I get to play the game and the beta and whatnot. But front runner. I like her. And now, on to the next one I wanted to cover, and this has been my choice all along, especially after you and I talked and we kind of went through some of the characters' individual features and their abilities and all that. And it's real cool for anybody who doesn't know. If you go to the Overwatch website, you can click on each of these characters and watch kind of their little featurettes and whatnot, and their ability highlights. It's really neat.
Yeah, I'll try to link it below if I can.
Yeah, you should definitely do that. But Reaper, gotta say, man, I think he's my top choice. And maybe I'm just being dumb because I always tend to side with the most evil or dark things in any form of media. But I find him appealing because he's kind of just that bad-looking dude, scary and more ominous than some of the other characters. Not maybe he's not as deadly as some, but I'm a visual guy. I like the ominous look that he's got going on. So give me a breakdown on him. What did you think of him?
All right, I'm going to start off with saying that Reaper was like the one that I too was like, man, this is my guy right here. And I, like Joe, I gravitate a lot towards like that kind of dark, especially if they look like a legitimate Grim Reaper. And when they showed off the gameplay for this, for the first time after their like cinematic trailer, they showed a gameplay trailer and they showed him kind of dropping down and using his abilities, and which is his ultimate ability, which is called Death Blossom, where he takes his 2 shotguns that he has and kind of shoots in every direction at everybody. It's very similar to another character in the Diablo franchise, the Demon Hunter, has a very similar move. But to me, I was like, oh my gosh. But so Reaper is very close range specialist. Obviously, I said he had shotguns, which he uses, and every time he reloads, he throws the 2 shotguns down and pulls out 2 new ones, which is kind of cool. And
he's a Grim Reaper. He can do whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah, to some extent. But the one thing I'll be critical about with him is that the shotguns, when I shoot them, they are powerful. They don't sound very great. There's something weird about that. I like my shotguns to feel like, or at least when I shoot them, I want it to feel powerful, like boom kind of thing.
Yeah,
and they are kind of small shotguns, so it might be forgivable. But he has 2 other main abilities in that he can teleport a pretty significant distance, which is nice. There used to be a longer cooldown on it, or longer cast time on it, but now it's pretty quick. And
so highlight that for me real quick though. Is that kind of like Evolve, where you can, like, when you're trying to drop a poison bomb or whatever to see where the monster is, you kind of pick a spot with a little icon, and that's where you teleport to? Okay.
Yes, very good. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, like, enemies can see it too. So if a Reaper's, like, gonna jump up on you, like, you can see, like, a little red smoke thing, like, right next to you or wherever he's gonna be, so you can kind of prepare. And I think I killed a few Reapers and died as Reaper doing that.
Oh,
His mobility thing that he can do is that it's like wraith form, and he goes intangible, and it just makes him invulnerable, and he can kind of float around and go wherever he needs to. So that's a nice way to position yourself, like right next to the people you need to kill. I did notice sometimes, and maybe this is just me, but I think in a lot of the heroes I had a hard time hitting. It's like the left shift button on your keyboard. I probably could have mapped it differently. Something a little bit better, but there's some times when I was dying and I was like, come on, like I just want to go intangible. But his kind of passive ability is kind of cool. You don't think about it too much, but if you kill people, you kind of like absorb their essence, and then you can heal from it. So like it's very much an incentive to get in there, kill a lot of people,
sweet,
and then just kind of move around.
Now,
and he's pretty sweet.
You talk about the intangible mode.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you called it.
Yeah, or it's wraith mode, I think.
Wraith
Wraith
mode.
walk or something.
That's sweet. I just kind of like the horror character of the game.
Yeah, for sure.
A little bit, which I like. I gravitate towards that, as you said. I like it. And as far as your shotgun feedback, yeah, I crave the same thing you do. And in looking at him, I see the shotguns, and they're a little outlandish, and so they're not your typical shotgun, so to speak. So I guess I can understand it, even though I wish for better. But yeah. So the intangible mode. Back to that. Sorry, tangents all over the place.
That's okay. That's all right. That's what we're all about here.
Another good use for that I'm thinking about for when we play. How about scouting? Huh? Go over there, check out. You can kind of pick out where they're holding up or where they're gravitating towards, and kind of report back, or set yourself up in a good spot and relay that information to the people you're playing with. Man,
yeah, for sure.
Versatile use for that ability, I think. But yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think the better way to do that kind of would be like to kind of, I forget what it is, to teleport over to wherever you think they kind of are, as long as you can see it, and then kind of wraith walk out, because if you do that the reverse way, you might die as you're like trying to pick a spot to jump out of. But yeah, that's true. I just think, like, now that I'm thinking about it, I kind of wish he almost had like melee weapons, because I think that'd be even cooler if he like floated up to you and just like stabbed a guy and then just like teleported away, and you're like, what? Like, I guess it'd be maybe too much like Nightcrawler. Then,
scythe, man,
like
a scythe.
A scythe would. Oh, I guess that'd be too Grim Reaper though. They'd be like, all right, come on, guys.
Hell, man, I'd prefer him to be in an even bigger cloak. I think he has like a trench coat type deal, but I think it'd be cooler if it was like an actual cloak.
Yeah, and once you kind of get to see his background a little bit, it makes more sense why he uses shotguns and stuff like that. It's like, okay, I get this whole thing now.
Okay, cool.
To be honest, he's very connected with Soldier 76, or I think it's like Commander Morrison, and I would love to see like a short based on their little falling out and all that stuff. It's one of those like kind of classic, like we're both on the same team, but one of us went the bad way and the other one was kind of the good guy, and we had this huge confrontation. I would love to see that. Cool. Yeah, Reaper is definitely cool. I just need to get better with him. He's another one kind of like Genji, where he's a little more forgiving in the fact that if you screw up, you can still probably get out, but you really need to be aware of what you're about to do, because if you're not, you put yourself in a horrible position. And he doesn't have a lot of health, obviously. He'll just get messed up.
Yeah, okay. So ability wise, for all these characters, are there cooldowns?
Yes, there are. So they don't have any type of mana or anything like that you have to worry about for the most part. I'm pretty sure that's everybody. It's just cooldowns, so you can see them. It's like, you use your Wraith Walk, you have to wait 12 seconds or 10 seconds or whatever it is. Okay. So that's another thing to keep in mind before you do any of these things. But
like primary weapons, it's just a matter of reloading, right?
Yep, exactly. Okay. And some people reload real fast, and some people it takes a little bit of time,
I'm impatient, so...
You need the quick reload people, or people who just have long or big magazines, or people who don't even use magazines at all, like Reinhardt. He just has a hammer and stuff. So
yeah, which by the way, the big the character shot that they have, kind of showcasing every character standing amongst each other. That guy's freaking huge.
Yeah, he is huge. He is a big guy for sure, and he's like in his 60s too. So good on him.
Well,
kicking it.
I can't tell that it's an actual person. It looks like a robot.
Oh yeah, there's a dude in that suit, big old mech suit.
Sweet.
Yeah, and I actually got. I had a buddy who I was playing against. I didn't mean to, but he used his Reinhardt's ultimate, which knocks like everybody down in a cone, and he knocked down like my whole team. And of course, he comes up and like it just destroys me with the hammer. Like anybody else he could have killed, he just comes up to me. I was like, no.
Now, what are the maps like? I mean, some of these characters are huge, so yeah. I'm guessing you gotta be able to pick them out pretty easily.
Yeah, and you can for the most part. They vary a lot, and I only played a couple of them, but there's like for the escort ones, obviously you're like on big roads that have like overhangs or cliffs or hallways if you're like in a place like a factory that you can use. They do a really good job, kind of like Titanfall, where the verticality is there. Mm-hmm. So for characters that can utilize it, it's really nice because you're like, oh man, I can go to like the top of that thing and just like attack people. And that's kind of like almost like them teaching you or telling you like that's what we want you to do. Because if you have an advantage, take advantage of it.
So now, if you're playing a guy like Reinhardt, you're pretty much exposed a lot. I mean, you're easily seen. Your hammer and your body are probably the biggest thing / character in the game. So no matter where you're at, you're almost always seen by the enemy.
For sure, and that's because he's a tank and they want you to see him. And he has a big shield that he puts up that people can walk behind. And he's it's almost like the assault class, again, if we want to akin it to Evolver. It's like, hey, look at me, I've got big moves, I'm a big guy, focus me, get me, kill me. Whereas, like, those are the people you shouldn't be focusing at all, because it's like, oh, you look in the back, man, there's a Hanzo back there with a bow and arrow, and he just put one in your face,
Huh. So if you're a Reinhardt, be prepared to feel the controller vibrate a lot.
Exactly. That's one thing that I kind of missed out on this. I'm sure there are mouses that do this, but I can't wait for the feedback. Yeah, I was saying mice. Yeah, that too. Is mouses ever? Is that real?
No, I think they've determined that it is acceptable to say mouses and then also plural forms for, I think, deer. Deers is acceptable. I'm not... Oh, really? I heard that conversation or overheard it at work one day, and I think they even Googled it. I think it is now deemed acceptable.
Fair enough. I'm not sure if that specifies over to computer mice or mouses. But anyway, that's one thing I'm really excited about, because there's a lot of times when I would do a move, and I was like, man, this is going to be a lot better. Like with Reaper, I might like him a lot better because I'll be like, oh, I can feel the feedback on his shotgun.
Yeah. So there's an aspect that you didn't get there that you may get on the console version. So
exactly. And the fun thing, one of the best things about this is, like, we're talking about context and this world building that makes you care about the characters and want to research it more. And the thing about this game is that all the stuff that happens in it right now, it's kind of like happening outside of the story. So like these fights aren't necessarily really happening, which makes sense because it's like, well, some of these characters wouldn't work with these other characters, and the things that they do, what they're fighting for, really makes no sense. It's like, we want to control this point, and like these other people are like, no, we will. But these little story moments are so rewarding because, like, in the beginning, like, I have Reaper, and Soldier 76 is there. Soldier 76 says, like, I thought you were dead. And Reaper's like, it didn't take. Like something like that. It's like, oh my gosh, like, these guys have a rapport already. And they, like, will say, they'll say things to each other in battle, which is just so cool. It's like, wow, these guys, there's more to these characters. They're not just like lifeless, just like, oh, I will play the tank guy, I bet he's cool. It's like, no, the tank guy, he knows the sniper or whatever, and they might have a relationship, or they might hate each other or whatever. It's just really fun.
Okay. So yeah. The last point I wanted to get at, and obviously directed at you, overall take on the game and complaints. I want to hear, are there any downfalls to the game, things that you expected more out of, things that you wanted to see and didn't, etc.
Cool.
Expand on that.
I like it. So put me on the spot. Joe, I like it. This is the way it should be. This is really the way it should be. So I think the game is going to be everything I want it to be. Maybe there's not as much as, like, because I think I've been building up in my mind, but when I got to it, the feeling and everything was just so on point. I mean, the rooms you spawn in, you can, like, destroy them. You can, like, kind of play basketball in one room.
Hold on, wait. So the maps are destructible? Like, the buildings deteriorate?
So there's, like, things in there, like, there might be, like, a vending machine you can, like, destroy parts of. You can't destroy buildings and stuff, because, like, Titanfall, I think, like, a lot of you'd lose a lot of the strategy if you could just mow all the buildings down. So they're like little things that you can destroy, primarily in the starting zone, because they like make the teams wait to set up for like a few seconds, or like 20 seconds or 40 seconds or whatever. So like instead of just sitting there with your friends like and just doing nothing, you can just go like look at the arcade. Like you'll be in an arcade and you're like looking around at games and stuff, and they're kind of like hints to other Blizzard titles, and you can like shoot the arcade and do other stuff, and like sparks and like things will happen. But I'm excited to see more of the maps. I just saw one today where it's going to be in Greece, which I saw the picture of it, and I was like, I hope that's in Greece. And then I read it, I'm like, that's in Greece. It's like bright blues and whites and all this stuff, so I'm really excited. But cool. The maps that I got to play were so cool, so varied. and they really catered to everybody. And I think the game overall right now is going to be one of those that, again, easy to get into, really, really difficult to master, and you really have to commit to it with buddies. But I'm not saying that at any time that you have to be like, okay, we have to play this like every night forever if we're gonna like it. Like, you'll like it right off the bat, regardless if you like first person shooters or anything like that. If you like being a healer in every other game, you can be a healer and you can be like the star of the show. Like, you can save. I was resurrected a number of times by Mercy, and I was like, oh man, I'm dead, I have to wait for my death time. It's like, nope, you've been resurrected. And she's like, heroes never die or whatever. I'm like, you're dang right, I'm back, only to die immediately. But no, I think it's really cool. The one thing that, or I guess one of my complaints, like I said before, is that I hope they put the character information almost in like, this is like my Evolve book again. Put like a little book icon somewhere on there and like have all the story information in that book. Don't make me look it up online like they did with Destiny. I want all that stuff to be in the game. Heck, even if you can, this would probably take up too much space on the disc, but any of those shorts that you have on there that we were talking about before, that'd be cool to have on there too, because you're like, oh yeah, I like Widowmaker, and they're like, yeah, here's like a little short for Widowmaker, do you want to watch it? And you're like, ah, sweet. And it's like, here's a 6-minute short of Widowmaker in the world of Overwatch doing what she does. Like, that would be really cool. Don't be afraid to blow it open with that kind of stuff. And they've already gone kind of crazy with all the weapons and stuff. There's not a lot of people where I'm like, yeah, he's just like this guy. The nice thing is, if you like shotguns, there's a few different people with shotguns. If you like an assault rifle, there's like a few different people with assault rifles. So, but they're so different. It's not like, oh man, like this guy's just like this guy. Like, they did a good job making everyone feel unique. And that's, man, it's hard. I'm trying to think of, though, like, what's one big complaint I could have besides the story stuff. I'm not sure there is one. I just think that they really need to, diversify. If there are more modes, I think that's better. Don't crumble now and say like, oh yeah, we'll just put in a team deathmatch because people want team deathmatch. Don't do that, but be creative and kind of don't have just the 2 or 3 modes. Like, try to expand as much as you can on it. Make something that you couldn't play in any other game. I mean, this is like the evolved version of like Team Fortress 2. Go nuts with it. Like, just make a game type we haven't even heard of yet. Like, make something be like, okay, I don't know if this is gonna work, but then maybe it does. So okay. Yeah, don't be afraid. That's what I say Overwatch, but they're not. I mean, they're just so, Blizzard doesn't make bad games, man.
Yeah, this is kind of different compared to anything we've seen on the consoles.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't hesitate to. I will be completely honest with you guys. I pre-ordered it for Xbox One because I want Blizzard to diversify, and I want them to be more on the consoles, because if we as video gamers get a chance to have access to these types of just AAA, just like really good games from a developer that just, again, doesn't make a bad game, I'm all for it. Like, please, Blizzard, put all your games out if you can. I mean, some of them are very computer specific, like you can't, like WoW and maybe like StarCraft are better on the computer. I get that, but if you're going to make more games going forward that are a little more in this vein, please bring them to console. I support you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's my rundown of Overwatch. I can't think of anything else. Any other questions you have about it, buddy?
Yeah, one other question I had is, okay, when you compare Call of Duty to Halo, I feel isn't as twitchy and fast paced.
For sure.
I mean, yeah, it gets hectic and whatnot and big firefights, but the movement, the actual feedback controller to game movement, it's not as fast and twitchy as like Call of Duty. How fast is the controllability and the panning and the looking vertical and horizontal in this game? Is it quick, or is it kind of slow and methodical like Halo?
So what I would say, Joe, is because I haven't really played Halo on the PC, or I don't even know if it's on PC. I don't keep track of that kind of stuff. But for this game, it was fast. Real fast. Like, okay. I don't know if I messed with the sensitivity at all. I think what we can do, Joe, what I was thinking is, like, when we get it on Xbox for that weekend, the first thing we do is go over to the sensitivity and just crank it all the way up to 10 or 11 or whatever you want to call it. But just do that, and I think we'll be just fine. Because I was looking around like a lot, and that's one thing people are saying is like, one mouse flick and you have to do a 180, and on the console you might not be able to do that. But if I crank up the sensitivity, I think some other people are saying like it's pretty comparable. It's not so bad.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
that's something I'm big on. When I play Call of Duty, I felt it helped me become a better COD player overall. I run it on insane. I run it on almost the highest you can. I think insane is the highest. And the new one, I think there's one that's like crazy or something like that. But I run it really high because I like to be able to be running, and I will check a doorway and look left as I'm running straight to double check to make sure no one's there. So I'm like, checking my back, so to speak. And that saved me many times, Oh, there's a guy to my right that I wouldn't have seen if I didn't have that high sensitivity to be able to check. And then same breath, I can go back to where I was going really quickly without losing a beat. So that's something I like to look for in my first-person shooters, and I hope this one is no slouch when it comes to that. So that's why I asked that.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I think two other points that come up with that are that some characters don't really need to have really quick look speeds or whatever. Like some of them are like healers and stuff, so you don't need to be like looking all over the place. Be like, just focus on the person that really needs the heals, and you'll be fine. And I will say that typically when Joe and I play, I'm usually not on as high of a sensitivity for the controller, and I still do pretty well. It just really depends on, in any type of game, it just really depends on if you do need to be more methodical or if you just want to take your time and like just try to kill a few people and not die as much. So all about your playstyle, really.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, with Call of Duty, one thing that they've really nailed, and this game really doesn't, they do have it, it's just not extensive at all because of how this game is set up, is that customization is not thorough in the same way as Call of Duty. And by that I mean, if you have a gun in Call of Duty, you can trick the thing out. You can put anything on there, basically. You can do whatever you want with it. You can make it your own. In this game, there are skins for your characters which do change the color and sometimes even the look of your entire character and like your arms and your gun. So like even when you're in game, you're like, oh man, this Reaper skin, like I can tell like he looks different and the guns are different. And that's pretty cool. And obviously, like we said before, we talked about like the voiceover lines and different spray paints and stuff. So these are more character-driven upgrades or cosmetic customization options. Okay. There isn't like something that can be like, all right, like I'm going to give like May a 20% increase in damage, but she's going to, like she'll have less range or something, like that or whatever.
So there aren't any like perks, there aren't any like attachments for like sights or anything like that or extended mags. There's nothing like that.
No, which makes sense because if you did that for like some of the characters, it'd be simple, but other characters would be a lot more difficult. So again, for instance, like May, it's like, well, how do I make my ice gun more powerful? Like, what do you put on there? Do you put a suppressor on your ice gun, or do you like extend
it doesn't make sense. Yeah.
So it's in the context of the game, it didn't really bother me. I just know that going in it's hard because some people really want that, like all those unlocks, and you do have unlocks for sure, and they've done a good job about that because they realize that early on. They're like, man, people are going to be, like the longevity of the game, they're going to have to keep cranking out new heroes and maps, but also new skins and stuff too that you can either obviously buy with real money or in-game money, and that's stuff that you're working towards. So say Joe really loves Reaper, and he's like, I want Reaper's like one of these cool skins, but he isn't getting them in his loot boxes, like these random loot box drops. So he just saves up his money in the in-game or whatever, and then just buys it flat out. So that way he's like, oh, I don't have to wait. It might never come in a loot box. So
heck yeah, my Reaper's got to look on point. Yo.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I wonder if like there's some sort of like backdoor shady thing where if they like see you tracking like with one character a bunch, and they're like, yeah, don't give him the good skin, or there's like a like a computer thing in there. It's like you never give him that kind of stuff. Like, no. But it does make you want to play. Yeah, it makes you want to play other characters, though, which I really like, too, because, like, say you get a skin for Symmetra, and you're like, man, I don't really play Symmetra, and you're like, but I'll give her a shot, and then you're like, wow, like, I really like her, or maybe you don't, and then I think you can sell stuff back in there for, like, in-game currency. I'm not positive, but you might be able to. So that's another thing, too. So if you get something really cool for a character you absolutely despise, then you can be like, all right, I'm selling that and putting it towards my other stuff, so.
Huh.
I'm not sure about that. I think so. But I'm not positive, not 100%.
Hey, well, I'm getting more and more amped for it the more you describe it. So, nice recap on that, man. I'm pumped.
Thank you. I'm really stoked too, and we'll talk about it more in a couple of weeks when Joe and I get to play the closed beta, or no, the open beta that'll be on console, and then hopefully we'll be doing a review of it too because I'm gonna capture a ton of footage. And that review won't be very long, thankfully. I don't think. So it'll be really cool. Well, now we're gonna enter into our last segment. That is so lovingly referred to as Time Killers. So this segment is all about what we like to watch on online or on Netflix or whatever, or what games we're playing. So Joe, what games or what movies are you watching right now, more specifically? Because we've kind of gone over most of the games and stuff that we've been playing recently.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. I got a bit of a busy lifestyle going recently, so I've been missing out on some of the new stuff that's out there. But perhaps next time I'll have more to say. But this week I don't have much, man.
That's
I
okay.
really don't. So
I've only got really one thing I want to talk about. That's, I think, something that if you really are into the Revolutionary War, I was talking to Joe about this, but the second season of Turn, Washington Spies from AMC is on Netflix now. And there's only 10 episodes of that. There's 10 episodes of the first season. And I got to say, this one was gripping. Like, it was so, like, hard for me to not watch the next episode. And the end of each episode, they, like, for every time they cut to, like, a commercial or whatever, it would be, like, a quick cut. And then when they would go to the very last one, it would cut to the end title or whatever, like, the credits. And it has this kind of like harsh violin, like really hardcore. And I was always like, oh my gosh, this is like, I gotta get to the next episode. So I went through those in like 2 or 3 days, and it was really good. It's like, if this stuff was around back when I was in high school learning about American history, even if this is like somewhat semi-fictional, which I'm sure some of it is, it is really fascinating.
It would have brought it to a whole new level for you and made you more interested in actual American history. Am I right?
Yeah, and not that I'm not already, but this stuff is so cool. And the guy they got to, like, Washington plays a really big role this time around. The guy they got to play him, as Joe would say, looks on point. The dude looks a lot like him, and he does a good job of being what I would maybe picture Washington to act like. They even play a little bit into some of his worries, and he even has like a few like delusions, because at certain times there was many assassination plots against him, and he was starting to lose it a little bit. So they kind of play into that a little bit. Cool. It's kind of interesting, and you kind of get the feel for where he got some of his ideas or whatever. And, that might not be true at all, but it was just really kind of interesting to see that play out. So.
Well, it's funny you've been talking about this, and I really want to check it out. But as I've been talking about to you, I'm taking a trip to Washington, D.C. coincidentally next week, and maybe that's what I'll have to watch when I'm on the plane on the way out there.
That'd be sweet. Yeah, definitely. Because like a lot of it takes place, it's obviously in the Northeast, so it's like New Jersey and New York and Philadelphia and stuff like that. So
yeah. So hey, another thing, any viewers that have been to DC and have some experience there, any tips for me on my travels? It's kind of a vacation type thing. I'm gonna hit the Smithsonian and the museums and, try and catch all the monuments. I was there when I was young. I don't remember all the details, but I'm excited to get back. But if you guys have any tips, leave them in the comments.
Yeah, that's sweet. Cool. Well, I think that about does it for today. Thank you so much, Joe, for doing this again. I thank you every time, but I love having you around, obviously.
Hey, man, I went on like that had to have been like an hour jaunt on the whole
Yeah, you did.
Jungle
I was like,
Book
wow,
thing. We're going on like 2 hours of podcasting right now. I passed my bedtime.
I know. Well, earlier, like, oh, this won't have to be really the long one. And then you got into the Jungle Book, and I was like, oh, man, he's got a lot to say. And that's a good thing. I love the passion. One thing I don't think I mentioned before, or maybe I did, but the picture you are seeing is by one Joran Evers. He is excellent. We gush about him every time, but he is phenomenal. And I'll link his art station down below. But if you have any freelance art desires, he is the guy. Tell him Jimmy Good from Critical Reviews sent you, because he's the best. He's a really nice guy too. I've gotten to talk to him a lot. So.
I'm still waiting for that artist rendering of Joe Lever with the rippling 6-pack abs and the chiseled
our Final
jaw.
Fantasy 15 stuff. Yeah. we might be waiting on that for a while. Joran, if you're listening to this again, I apologize. But I will probably twist your arm come September. But we'll see where that goes. But anyway, thank you everybody for listening to this. I hope you enjoyed our little 2-hour kind of fest about talking about Jungle Book, Overwatch, and obviously Doctor Strange and stuff like that. But please leave your comments down below if you got any questions or feedback for us. If you want us to cover something. And if you really liked it, feel free to share this with your friends. I mean, you can thumbs up it. You can check out our other videos, subscribe to us if you aren't already. And you can follow us on various media. I'll go first here. I'm on Twitter @GoCritical. And then also on Instagram, under the same name, and we have a Facebook, and also I'm on Twitch. It should be linked here too, but it's just Jimmy_good. And Joe, tell us all the things that we can find you, where we can find you.
Oh, it's hard for me to remember sometimes, but Twitter, it's at Lever_627, and that's Lever just like Beaver, only with an L. And then my Instagram, that's at Lever627. So check me out. We're always sharing stuff about the streams and the podcast. So check us out.
Joe, would you be opposed to a drawing of you on a dam holding like a gigantic log, like the length of a tree, and like just without your shirt, and you're just like really ripped, and there's like a beaver standing next to you, and
then at the bottom it's a little caption that says it's just like Beaver, only with an L.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that would be pretty, like a beautiful scenic picture behind you, like a little log cabin in the background, a little smoke coming out of the chimney. I can see it now.
Oh yeah. Make me a lumberjack. Fine, whatever.
Just like a brawny man.
Whatever.
He's like, I don't need my shirt. I gotta move some of these logs.
I'm open to anything. I know Yoren will do an excellent job one day when I get reincarnated into a artist rendition.
Oh my gosh, this is so great. Oh, poor guy. I love poor Yoren. All right. Anyway, thank you again, everybody, so much. Yeah, there's so much pressure. And hopefully, I'm not sure what we're doing next week because Joe's going to be, like you said, he's going to be gone in DC. So I don't know if I'll be doing something maybe even with Thomas. I don't even know. So we might be on hiatus next week. But
nonsense. There'll be gots to be a surprise special guest.
Surprise special guest, or it might just be me just like crying and talking to no one. I'll be like, so this new trailer dropped and it's pretty good, what do you think? And it'll just be silence, and I'll be like, ha, yeah, you're right. People think I'm really nuts, more so than they already do. But again, thank you everybody for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Bye.
Deuces.